for people that can't afford these things. Let's get these things in our community that we can put money back into our community. I'm a guy that came out of prison. The odds are stacked against me because they say I'll be back in prison in less than 1 to 3 years. But I flipped the script on it. That's why my thing is from dope to hope. I used to sell drugs. I used to run the streets using drugs and alcohol. But now I flipped the script by the grace of God. That now I push this message that if I can do it, you can do it. We don't have to go back into that revolving door. I didn't have to go back to that revolving thing that I was doing. That's why now I'm pushing this message that, look, hey, there is hope. There is hope. You have to believe in yourself. Some people have been broken down so much, been beat down, have been turned around when they walked in the door and applied for a job, have been broken down and they applied to go to school and they couldn't get in there because they couldn't afford to go to school. It's so many different barriers that people have been like, they're struggling with. They have given up.
What I do in my personal life matters. The conversations that you choose to have in your personal lives matter. Something that I often say to my white friends, if you're in spaces and you feel a certain type of way, it is up to you to represent someone like me in that space, because I may not be there and I may not get the real honest thoughts of that person that occupies that space with you. So represent a mindset, take it everywhere, share it, and eventually those that need to hear about it, they should, if they're listening.
Want to jump in about this?
Sure. I know I'll speak personally first. As for me, to be honest, even though I was aware of things happening in our society, I think I was so focused on, especially as a single mother, on surviving, that I really wasn't focused on getting out there to truly make an impactful difference to help when it came to this area, especially in the area of civic engagement. Now, when I was an educator, as a special education teacher, yes, I did advocacy, especially for those with different disabilities. But on this front, while I hate that COVID had to come for us to shut in, and to be paused for a moment, to have to watch George Floyd video over and over and over again. At the same time, I appreciate it because it has now completely shifted my life, where I knew I could no longer just be a bystander, right? And so from that, it has been beautiful because I have a 10-year-old son who's bringing things to my attention. And then I have a 19-year-old daughter who's bringing things to my attention. And they're the ones that encouraging me, Mom, get out there. Look, we're praying for you. Get out there and make a difference. You know, thank you for being
Deferred action for childhood arrivals. And so they came here from another country, brought here by their parents. They apply for DACA, which right now they have to apply yearly for it. They pay, and if approved, they get to work in the country. They get to go to school, get a driver's license and all that great stuff. But there's no pathway to citizenship for them. So though they've been here their whole youth and now into adulthood, they're here. And if DACA is ever taken away from them, they could be at risk of getting deported at any time. So for me, social justice would be for people that have been here most of their life to be able to stay here without living in
years
fear.
of organizing into the Black Self-Defense Team. And that is just a response not only to the police, the brutal police brutality that is happening to our people and has been happening from night watchers. It's also a response of knowing our rights and how to defend ourselves by any means necessary as a people. And that is something that we're trying to do now through civic engagement, know your rights training, and also kind of connecting that bridge between knowing what is happening in our city council meetings and knowing who is dictating, who's turning on the water, who's turning on the lights for your grandmother and your aunt's house, and holding them accountable just in case we have to cut the bad cancer out like a professional.
To be quite honest, I feel like you could be a painter and be, taking place with social justice. You could be a nurse. You could be an environmentalist. You could be an educator. I think the key is to whatever you're in, finding your place. And feeling it out and seeing where you are really needed and what skills that you have to be the most effective when it comes to
I try to see positive in it because I don't really have a choice. I have to do it. But I have been an active student.
I like going to school, but being like on lockdown and social distancing has made me appreciate the like opportunity and the chance to actually go and sit in the classroom. But it has just become difficult for me. I have to have more discipline to sit down for 3 hours at a time on Zoom, listening to someone's lecture. And what I would do is my attention span is not as long as it should be, I guess. So I would still do something productive, like dishes or laundry, cleaning up, reading a book. And what I'll just do is go back and watch the class on my own time. But it definitely is a new norm and something that we have to get at.
A quick and unexpected change from where we were in the semester last year versus what our semester is looking like now this year. And the lack of social interaction has been difficult. You know, I think one of the most important aspects of school, especially at the high school age, is kind of building your relationships and your kind of inner circle and that sort of thing. And losing that aspect has been tough. But like Keenan said, this is kind of the new normal for a lot of different work avenues and areas. So it is good to kind of have this background, but I definitely do miss one-on-one interaction with professors and classmates alike.
We told them to go for Black women candidates. We were very clear. They didn't listen. Look what happened in North Carolina. It was a win for us because 1.4 million Black people turned out in North Carolina to vote because of a lot of you on this call. That's a win for us, but North Carolina still voted for a Democratic governor and the same people voted for 45. Okay, that's reflective of the core values of this state and the fact that we can't put our celebration solely in national offices because of what Portia just said, accountability matters. So what do we need to do? We need to think about who we're hiring, who did we just hire, and who needs to be fired next year. And how are we evaluating who we're firing next year if we have no counter of accountability, if we're too busy celebrating a national election that really has no direct impact on our lives?
Well, being a part of the youth, I think I'm pretty young. I believe that the world we already lived in a digital world, and a lot of businesses were shifting towards the digital narrative, or digital space, I should say. But this really sped everything up. So we already have the younger generations growing up in the digital space. So I know that at times it can be overwhelming because now everything is on your phone or laptop, whether it be your social media, school, your job, whatever it may be. But I would say to be mindful of where you are when you're not in the digital space as well.
Social justice is striving to live and not relying on surviving. And that is often our Black and brown communities and oppressed communities. And I think just to kind of bounce off of what Mike said earlier, that ranges from not only those who are holding positions in power and the elected officials or are activists or organizers, but from the Black woman who will be the Girl Scout leader at her local church and working with the Girl Scouts. I do want to get just
closing thoughts from all of our panelists. And I'll start with some of my own thoughts about this call. I'm going to leave really energized about all of the different ways that people can contribute to this fight in their own with their own individual backgrounds and talents and approaches. And also about how people can bring others from their communities into that conversation. We've heard landscaping, we've heard barbershops, we've heard working with students on college campuses. So there's such a range of ways that we can engage our people and meet people where they are. And so I'm really excited about continuing that work.